My sister has lived with me since she was a teen mom. She has her own little space for her and her kids. It's my house, I own it. My fiancée Amy moved in and we got married. My wife can remodel the home however she likes. Amy and I have been together for 4 years. My sister has lived with me for 6. My sister and Amy got into this huge argument over ripping out my grass where her kids play and making a garden that will bloom next spring. Amy had discussed this with me and it was agreed upon. Because of our different schedules, we forgot about my sister and told her about the garden. Amy took a few days off work to meet with the contractors for the initial digging up of the yard. This happened while I was at work. My sister made a scene with the contractors and yelled at Amy. Amy told my sister that it was time for her to move out and get on with her own life. I've been supporting her and her kids for too long. A neighbour got involved and called the police, saying Amy wasn't authorised to have the contractors dig up the yard. Amy was asked to leave the property by the police with an overnight bag. The police supervised this because I was not reachable at work. My sister told me, "Can you believe this witch ripping up the yard like that?" I had to leave work and take my hour commute home to deal with my sister. I told her it was time for her to move out and she should never have been involved with the garden. It wasn't her place. It's not her home. My sister complained that her boys loved to play in that patch of grass and she couldn't believe I would change their play area without consulting her. Amy is angry at my sister and the neighbour. The neighbour tried to apologise, but I had to tell the neighbour there was no more coming over because she would be trespassing and she had no business calling the police and making the situation worse. The neighbour explained she didn't know Amy was authorised to make those changes, and I told the neighbour too bad. She's banned from the property even though she's friends with my sister and their kids play together. I told my sister that she and the boys had to go and she needed to be out by the new year or I would take legal action against her. My sister kept crying and apologising, but her action showed Amy what her married life would be like with my sister living with us. I'm putting my wife first, so my sister had to go. Am I the idiot for kicking my sister and her kids out of my house over a garden? Not the idiot. If I'm reading this correctly, she moved in with you as a teen mom and has had more children since living with you. She isn't financially independent but has continued to make babies. It's definitely time for her to step out on her own and support the family she's created. You also gave her plenty of notice. That was very kind. On the bright side, it sounds like she has friends, so maybe she can move in with one of them. Make sure you get everything in writing. If she's willing to make a scene in the neighbourhood and talk to the cops to have your fiancé thrown out, there's no telling what she'll do down the line. Good on you for sticking up for your future wife. Your fiancé being escorted out of her home with your sister calling her a witch, I can understand why that straw broke the camel's back. Also, with your sister out, there's no reason for your neighbour to be on your property anyway. It was none of her damn business what happened on your property. Sucks to be your sister, but she bought her own ticket out the door. Everyone's the idiot here. This whole situation is messy. So, your sister is basically your tenant. You don't indicate that she pays rent, but still, 6 years of living there with her own little space, as you call it. And suddenly, with no notice or consideration, you're digging up part of her space. That was an idiot move. Like, you don't have to ask her opinion or permission, it is your house, but it takes ages to find the workers and get the quotes, and in all that time you didn't have a minute to tell her? Please. I'm totally with you on this. The sister has lived and raised her children there for 6 years, but it's not her home? That's a delusional conclusion by OP. OP, this was an unnecessary mess that happened because you and your wife couldn't bother talking to Amy about your plans for what has been her home for 6 years. Seriously. Long story short, I was raised by a single mom in crushing poverty until I, now 44, was 13. My mom got remarried and her husband eventually adopted me. He and his family were like winning the STEP Adoptive Family Lottery. Literally changed my life. As far as I knew, Dad's nephew and I were the only children in Dad's family. Years later, I found out more details. Dad was married and had a daughter, Ashley, now early 50s. When Ashley was 14, her mom filed for divorce and moved in with her affair partner. She told Dad she'd been cheating their entire relationship and he wasn't Ashley's biological father. Her affair partner had been married their entire relationship, and when his wife died, he wanted Ashley and her mom to move in. DNA testing was expensive and not common for paternity at that time, but Dad was excluded as Ashley's father by blood type. Ashley's mom had known since shortly after her birth that her dad wasn't her biological father because of their blood type. Ashley and her mom moved in with AP and his children in the home he'd previously shared with his wife. They requested that Dad neither pay child support nor have visitation. Ashley was 15 or 16 by then, and she wrote Dad a letter asking him to leave her alone and let her build relationships with her biological family. He did as she requested, and they never reconnected as father and child after that. As far as I know, they've never spoken again. Ashley's mom wanted a quick divorce and property settlement. Dad got the house and contents. Ashley's mom got cash. I barely knew Ashley existed until Dad died. Dad's will specifically mentioned her, denied her as his biological child, I'm pretty sure he was never removed from her birth certificate, and expressly stated that she was to get nothing from his estate. When she got notice that she was disinherited, she contacted me. Initially, she was very pleasant and asked if she could have some heirlooms that her mother had left behind in the divorce. I wasn't necessarily opposed and asked her to send me a list of items. She never provided a list and wanted to come look round and find stuff. I declined. Over the past 5 years, she's become increasingly more aggressive and volatile. It turns out affair partner wasn't her biological father either. His family had a bit of money and paid for DNA testing in the early 1990s after Ashley was an adult. His parents and grandparents wouldn't pay for her college or include her as a grandchild in their wills without proof she was biologically related. She wasn't included in affair partner's will because she wasn't his biological child. She's very angry. She feels cheated. She has no idea who her biological father is. Her mom swore to her deathbed that AP was her dad and the DNA test was wrong. She leaves me alone for a while and then she starts showing up at my house and at my job and ranting and carrying on about how I stole her life, her inheritance and her childhood home. She refers to me as the replacement. Eventually I involved the police and she was charged with remaining after being forbidden and disturbing the peace 10 times. She escalated to property damage, and I finally had grounds for a restraining order. She violated it multiple times and was charged with a misdemeanor violation of a protective order a couple of times. The last time they charged her with a felony. Now she's worried that a felony could impact her job. She wants me to drop the charges. Am I the idiot for refusing to drop the charges against her? Now she's worried? Now? After all of this? Not the idiot. Don't drop the charges. OP, if you let her off again, she's only going to escalate. She's finally about to suffer a real consequence, and that has her scared but not remorseful about what she's done. Right? I get it, her child was filled with traumas, but this is a grown adult. Heck, she could be somebody's grandma in her 50s, and she goes around breaking restraining orders multiple times thinking nothing will happen. Good riddance. Maybe she should have swallowed her pride in the 90s and reached out to their dad, instead of doing all of this 3 decades later. Ashley sounds like she's just trying to blame you for her own issues, and it's super unfair for her to harass you like that. Like, girl, you didn't steal her life. Her mom did that. You have every right to protect yourself and keep those charges. She shouldn't have acted like a total mess if she didn't want consequences. It's wild how she thinks she can waltz in and demand you drop everything after all that drama. Is the affair partner not her father either? No, he wasn't. Her mom had a 20-year-long affair with a married man, got married during the affair, and had a baby fathered by neither her husband nor her affair partner. Filed for divorce and upset her whole life to move in with AP about a month after his wife died. He had children older and younger than Ashley with his wife. He stayed with her mom for years after he discovered she wasn't his biological child. He could have adopted her, but didn't. I, 31 male, am fairly social and enjoy meeting and chilling with my friends, usually in a group of 3 other people. My wife, 30, is the opposite and she doesn't have many friends. She says she does, but they don't meet often. We usually used to hang out at bars and each other's places, but lately it's become too expensive, and 2 of the other guys recently had kids and we don't want to get in the way of things as their wives are quite busy. The other lives so far we've started hanging out at my place more and more. We don't bother my wife or my daughter, a young grammar schooler, as my daughter usually hangs upstairs during this time, and my wife is also either chilling upstairs or busy in the kitchen. However, she could hear us in the kitchen and told me she was annoyed by some of the things we said. It's not even close to what we mostly talk about, but sometimes we do make politically incorrect jokes when we're intoxicated about women that we don't mean seriously. And my friends do it more than I do. For instance, one of my friends was joking about this intern girl who joined his company and imitating her voice and stuff. I don't mind not doing these things myself, but it feels kind of lame to ask my friends to stop, so I don't want to. We don't really mean any of these things seriously and believe in inequality, so it isn't anything serious besides a bunch of guys chilling. I'm sure she'd say similar things if she hung out with her friends. You are the idiot. You say the other wives are busy, so you can't hang there. Yet you said your wife is sometimes busy in the kitchen. I roll at that. So from there, I gather the other wives have said no. Yet you don't mind inconveniencing your wife. On to the other subject, you and your friends are still idiots. Your jokes don't sound like they're funny, especially if they're at the expense of others, which they sound like they are. Intoxicated words are sober thoughts. This story gives off a bros before vibe. Recently had kids. Those idiots need to be home helping take care of their kids, not out drinking with the bros. And Opie needs to be interacting with his daughter, not squirreling her away upstairs. Your wife needs to tell the lot of you to shut up and the bros to go home. Oh, and if you're all drinking, how are the other idiots getting home? I know why they hold it at your house. Their wives would shut them down in a heartbeat and you don't have the courage to tell them to stop. Something is wrong with my Uncle Dave, 50s. He's faked cancer, faked being in the military, and faked having well-paying jobs to impress women. He's been married 3 times. I went to my grandma's birthday and Dave showed up with a new girlfriend and his head shaved. She goes on about his cancer treatments. I look at my cousin who works at the closest chemotherapy facility and is like, no. I later pulled this woman aside and told her about Dave's history of faking cancer, and she started to put 2 and 2 together because Dave had just lost his well-paying job because of his sick days for cancer being back. Dave has already moved in with this woman and she's helping him out. This woman had no chill and screamed at Dave at my grandma's birthday and told him to get his crap out of the home before she called the police about him. My mom and grandma were angry at me and told me to leave because what I did to Dave and grandma at her party was evil, because this could be grandma's last birthday party because she's old. I don't see how I'm wrong when Dave lied to a woman to live in her home, but I'm the bad guy here. So everything is now my fault, and I've been told not to come around to a family gathering at my grandma's again. Am I the idiot for telling the truth about Uncle Dave? Not the idiot, though it probably would have been better to tell her after the party. They're probably upset with you because they've already given up on Dave. They've accepted that this scummy person is who he is. While you're a junior person, it's much easier to get angry and yell at younger generations. Maybe Dave will learn to stop building relationships on fantastic lies and start getting a job. I doubt it. They're probably angry because Dave will be leeching on them now he has no victim. They know it's wrong, but he would rather consult someone else out of their money than ask them. Now, until he finds another girlfriend, he will be coming to them for money and a place to stay. You didn't ruin the party, Dave did by bringing his lies into it. You were looking out for that poor woman who was being manipulated and taken advantage of. Your family is just upset that his mess got exposed in a dramatic way, but that's not on you. But remember, Grandma and Mother have been enabling Uncle Dave's behaviour for decades. Playing, let's pretend, has been their way of dealing with it, and when others play, tell the truth, it's more than they can cope with. Like many siblings, my sister, 27, occasionally digs for a hurtful thing to say to me, 25 female, when she's angry, embarrassed, or just spiteful. Her recent dig has been to make sarcastic comments implying I would be a crappy mom and that my future hypothetical kids would suffer having me as a mom. Most of the time I just ignore it. This is often in response to me not catering sufficiently to her anxiety. Everybody in my family suffers from some anxiety or depression. As a result, I feel that my parents especially tend to coddle. My mom will still book appointments for my sister because she doesn't like making phone calls, my dad will talk to waitstaff on her behalf, etc. I used to have a very similar level of anxiety to my sister, but since moving out, getting into adult relationships, having a job, this has greatly improved. My sister has never held a job for more than a few months, and it's been years since her last job because of her anxiety. She lives at home with our parents. Today, we were travelling together as a family and the two of us went out to get some snacks at a supermarket. She abruptly got extremely edgy and wanted to leave immediately because of her anxiety. She wouldn't go anywhere alone, so this meant I had to leave immediately. I refused because, from what I could tell, the thing that was making her anxious was simply 2 men who spoke a foreign language existing sort of near her. They were not interacting with her in any way, not looking at her, not in her space, nothing, just chatting and buying groceries. I checked out my stuff normally and she made a snarky comment about how she hoped I didn't have children because I clearly wouldn't care about their safety. I said, verbatim, I know you say stuff like that because you think it hurts me, but why on earth would you think that I want to enable my kids like the way our parents have enabled you? I don't want them to turn out anything like you." She got incredibly upset and burst into tears, and I got scolded by our parents and other siblings for being cruel when she was already scared and upset. I did not apologize, and she has not apologized to me. Am I the idiot? I feel like I was just being honest in response to something clearly meant to hurt and upset me. Not the idiot. She's not a child to behave that way. Claiming she felt unsafe just because two people existing in the universe next to her were speaking in a foreign language is unacceptable. Plus, the unkind remarks towards you were uncalled for. If she can't take it, she shouldn't dish it. It's time to keep low contact with your family, don't you think? These toxic people will only drag you down. Also, I love your reaction to your brat sister. It's mature and shows you and your family are not on the same level. Exactly. What a perfect answer. Good for you, OP, for standing up to her. I have similar anxiety, and I also don't like taking phone calls and talking to wait staff, ordering room service, etc., as my palms immediately start sweating. I push through. I also get therapy when it becomes too much to handle, and I'm never mean to anyone who's trying to accommodate me. Your sister should stop with her entitlement and mean streak and start being grateful to you for accommodating her.